So welcome back, viewers. Today we're going to take a look at some vintage Kenner large size action figures, kind of the thin plastic figures out of the line, and we'll compare them to some modern Hasbro figures that were kind of made in that same style. We have a Stormtrooper here. It's a little worse for the wear over the years. You can see his hand has come out of its socket, and I think at one point attempted to glue it back in, which is kind of barely hanging on there. You can see the little string holster. It was kind of a clever holster for the simple design holster for his blaster. Got this figure in the early 90s out of Toy Shop magazine. Pretty yellowed over the time. See, it was released in 1978, or manufactured in 1978. I may have been released in 79. Here's his gun. Fairly screen accurate blaster, Stormtrooper blaster. Trying to put it back in his hand, but I'm not going to force it. It's a little awkward doing this one-handed and filming with the other hand, so we'll just set it aside there. Next, we'll take a look at C-3PO. C-3PO's got a very loose left arm. It's kind of freely swings back and forth, but some great sculpting and details, and of course the vac metallized paint is really nice, very screen accurate. Also, date stamp of 1978, General Mills Fun Group Incorporated. I didn't have these figures as a kid. I always wanted them. I would see them in the Star Wars catalogs. It's funny, they made C-3PO taller than, I think he's a little bit taller than like Han Solo and Luke Skywalker. They made those figures, sort of modeled them after the Mattel's Ken doll. Here's a modern figure from Hasbro that I thought I would compare to these figures because it's the same kind of style. They're not as tall, but it's that same hollow plastic and very thin plastic construction. I believe this figure was released in 2012 by Hasbro. But yeah, you can see the toy makers were really like, well, what can we do to release a low price point figure that's would appeal to vintage collectors, and I came up with these figures. Although these figures have more articulation, they have 7 points of articulation, swivel wrists and swivel head. But much smaller. I believe the vintage Stormtrooper there is like 13 inches, maybe 13 and a half inches. I think the largest one is Chewbacca out of the vintage Kenner at large size action figures. Here is a Anakin Skywalker, Hasbro. I think he's 2012 as well, but kind of been the same after the fashion of those vintage Kenner hollow thin plastic figures. What are your opinion of those modern figures? Have a Darth Vader. Also, I think he's 2013. It's hard to see. Out of this lineup, C-3PO is probably my favorite, probably because he's because of the back metallized paint treatment they gave him. I also have a vintage Darth Vader large size action figure, which I will show you momentarily. Here he is. Very loose joints. But he's much taller, towers over the rest of the line. Although I think, as I say, I think Chewbacca's the tallest one. Or maybe IG-88. I don't have either of those. I'm kind of partial to those really large figures. They remind me of like the Jumbo Shogun Warrior figures, if you know those, with their shooting darts. They're kind of the same hollow plastic treatment. And like these figures were, you would think Kenner was almost trying to make figures like that, those jumbo figures, Shogun Warrior figures. Vader has a little bit more articulation at the shoulders. They rotate. They have a socket and they rotate in the socket. I guess they have rubber bands in there that keep them together, the arms. Anyways, I think these are pretty cool figures. I'm kind of partial to them. And did you have these figures growing up as a kid? What are your memories of them? If you like this video, check out my other vintage Star Wars videos and like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.